he is literally a franchise-altering player. And there just aren't many of those in the world. Man, oh man. You kind of floated this last episode or a few episodes ago, and I was like, geez, I never even considered that they would possibly be trading Zion Williamson. But now we're to the point where not only do you have two very well-respected reporters reporting like, hey, yeah, it has reached that point. You have one saying, you know what? Yeah, they would consider it, but I don't even know how high his value is right now, which is kind of crazy to think. It's almost like you would, I guess on first blush, I would go, okay, look, I know the guy's been injury riddled, but it's Zion Williamson. Like, of course, if you could get him, you're getting Zion Williamson. But I guess it's just gone so far and people have so many questions that it's like the idea that they're wrestling with moving the second pick of the draft or the third pick in the draft to get a guy who looks like when he plays is one of the best players in the entire NBA. Every time he plays.
One of the 10 best. Yeah, the Pelicans had the second best record in the West at one point, with Zion looking like an all-NBA guy.
And how many times have we said this when he's playing, Kev? Whenever we bring up the top 10 thing, I said, look, we line all the NBA players up and we're going to pick teams. You ain't getting past 10 before somebody takes Zion Williamson. You're just not.
Yeah, well,
if he's healthy.
That's the thing. And like, I know Stein in that same article over on his Substack, he wrote how for the Charlotte side of things, Michael Jordan still owns the team. He hasn't sold yet, and Zion is a Jordan brand athlete. So Michael Jordan, through his own connections as well, I'm sure he's got strong intel on Zion and a sense of how he would fit into that Charlotte Hornets atmosphere in North Carolina, close to home with Zion being from Carolina. Yeah, I mean, being close to home isn't always the best thing. Maybe in Zion's case, it could be a good thing. But I think for Michael Jordan and the Hornets, that they have a fair amount of intel there. With Ingram, it is interesting how Stein says that the Pelicans are less inclined to move him, and I get that as well. I don't know what I'd do if I'm the Pelicans. I don't know. I mean, I'm so split on it. I kind of change hour to hour, and I would imagine a lot of the people in that organization feel the same way.
It also, though, Kev,
I just don't know.
To what they think. Well, and I think a lot of that depends on what your level of conviction is on Scoot Henderson.
And they know more than they know more than anybody about Zion, Chris, too.
For sure. But if there's anything we know what level of conviction they must have that Scoot Henderson is going to be a big star in the NBA, if they're even considering it. No, you may not agree with that, but also, like, if you're even thinking about that,
I know.
In regards to a top 3 pick, because and it's not like because they might want somebody there. It's very specific. Everybody says,
but
the Pelicans
Zion's played 114 games in 4 years, Chris. I think it speaks more to that. 114 games, 4 years.
I get it. When he plays. And I think if you were the other team, you'd make every excuse in the world. You'd say, it was that organization. It was where he got drafted. It was, and we're going to get him in here and we're going to treat him differently than the treatment he has gotten already this season. And there's going to be an expectation about him. And, everything that's gone on with his injuries, you remember how strange it's all been anyway. And these are sometimes the pressures of a small market team not wanting their star to want to be elsewhere. And so I do think it's fair to opine whether or not they drop the hammer on him like maybe another organization would regarding his weight, regarding his rehab regarding anything, because you're a lot more timid when you're a small market team who's got one of these big stars. It's a criticism that's come across in some ways for Memphis that, there's always a fine line that you walk because you don't want to. In this day and age, every organization, whether it's a big market or small market, is worried about their stars' level of discontent with the organization, right? They want everybody to be happy. And maybe there's some things they wish they would have done differently with Zion. And I think if you were trading for him, you'd convince yourself of that like, hey, man, we'll get him to lose the weight. We'll get him to take his rehab seriously. And God forbid this guy ever stay healthy for an amount of time. He is literally a franchise-altering player. And there just aren't many of those in the world. And so I get it. He's only played 114 games. It's been a sad story thus far.
What would you do, Chris? Would you put him on the table for number 2? Or let's just say not for 2 necessarily, but for Scoot. Would you put him on the table for Scoot?
I would not trade him. I would be terrified.
And you're the guy who sang the Zion song to me.
I know. I would be. But for all the Pelicans goofing, you have never heard me say one false word about him as a basketball player. There are very few guys in the over 20 years that I've been going to games that I've ever seen like that. I mean, he might truly be one of one, where I saw him some nights where I thought, what the hell are you supposed to do with this guy? Just an absolute force of nature. And I would be terrified that you look back and that this guy becomes like, there's very few guys that have a chance to become one of the best 5 players in the league. He's in that category. I just would not. I would not be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. Not for an unknown. Not for an unknown. Because, yes, he's only played 114 games. But, man, if you could ever get him healthy for 65, you've got he could be the best player on an awesome team. And I love Scoot. But it's still, as we know, a question mark. There's no question mark on Zion when he plays. This isn't like a bust situation. Like Greg Oden, you go out there and average 8 and 8 when you play. Every time he plays, he's awesome. Every time he plays. And not like kind of awesome. Not even like he gets you 16 and 9. He gets you like 28 and 9.
He gets you
high
not
efficiency.
Just 28 and 9, but Chris, not just 28 and 9. He gets you and 5. He's also a playmaker too.
High efficiency.
The dude's unbelievable. Yep.
Yeah. He's just too big of a talent. I couldn't do it. Not yet. I couldn't. And it might be too late by the time I would.